There is absolutely no doubt in my mind, and I hope there's none in any of your minds by the end of this presentation as well, that we are absolutely living through a revolution right now, and that's the digital revolution. So in just exactly the same way as we learned in school about the Renaissance, we learned about the Industrial Revolution, I think our kids and our grandkids will be sitting in school learning about what we're going through right now, and that's the digital revolution. The bumps, the hurdles, all of the changes that are happening so quickly to us will be written about in textbooks. And so what I've been asked to talk to you about today is about the future of online marketing. And having stepped off a plane from Silicon Valley just 3 hours ago, I feel relatively well qualified to give you this presentation today. And I think in these textbooks, as we think about who those historical figures will be, there'll be people like Bill Gates, there'll be people like Larry Page, and yes, there'll be people like Mark Zuckerberg. There probably won't be people like me, but nonetheless, this is my Facebook profile. And just a show of hands of the audience so I know what I'm dealing with, who here has a Facebook profile? That's fantastic. Good to know. So, and what we think about when we show our Facebook profile or our timeline, and all Facebook presentations will start out this way, is it's about real people. That's what Facebook is about. This is my real profile picture, albeit a slightly better one than most of the other pictures I have on Facebook. This is my real work, my real city, where I live. It's all about who I really am. And that's what Facebook is about. It's about all the people who matter to you. For me, it's about all of my friends and my family, all of the people who matter to me. It's about where they discover the content that matters most to them. And it's every day and it's everywhere. The vast majority of our users globally come back to Facebook not just every day, but multiple times every day. And so what this means is it's really about a new way of thinking and a new way that's on this road of this digital revolution. So when I was asked to come and present to you guys, I could, spend a lot of time talking you through machine learning or Google Glass or all of these really amazing, really big changes that are happening. But in actual fact, what I wanted to speak to you about is some really important and really fundamental trends that we're seeing in the marketplace. Trends that have really cropped up, I would say, in the last 6 to 12 months, but trends that I really don't think that most businesses and most marketers are nailing. And I want to give you guys some insights and some tools to help you in your businesses really nail those 3 trends that will set you up for success as we move forward over the next, say, 5 to 10 years. So trend 1 that we wanted to talk about is hyper-targeting. So Mark already spoke about the need for data and what that means in terms of hyper-targeting and really making your consumer a one-to-one personal relationship. This is something that we've really seen accelerating in the last 6 months, and it is not going away. So in the past, when we think about all of the people who matter to you, you guys would have insights teams, you would have teams doing all sorts of crazy sort of analytics, trying to figure out your segmentation, doing k-means clustering, doing a real load of work to figure out who are all the people that matter to you. Whether that's 18 to 39-year-old women, where they live, what it is. Normally those people have a nice name, like, hey, this is Sandra, she lives in Cremorne, and we have a nice profile about her, and that's fantastic. But it wasn't a real person. Because what would happen is you'd take that lovely Sandra and you'd say to your media agency, please now go buy me some Sandras on TV. And you will have done all this amazing work to figure out exactly who your cluster is and who your target audience is, and then you go and spend that money on TV where you have to buy broad targeting. That's no longer the case. TV is still always going to be there, and it's going to be an important part of your media plans to get a base level of understanding and to really hone in on some certain targets. But what we're seeing with online is that you can buy your exact target. So rather than having this broad targeting, this broad messaging, the first trend that we really wanted to share with you today is hyper-targeting, what that means for your business. What it means is that you need to change the way that you're communicating with your consumers. You need to understand them and know them in the same way that you would have a one-to-one relationship and know what's important to them. That might seem scary. It might seem like a lot of work, but in actual fact, it doesn't have to be. Because if you're listening to your consumers and if you really understand what it is that they're saying, then that one-to-one relationship can be a huge opportunity rather than having to be something that is cumbersome, tough, and difficult to do. And I know that a lot of these digital things do seem that way. It's so much change, it's so much work for all of our organizations, and how do we do this? So at Facebook, we try and do it so in a way that is making it really easy for you guys. And I appreciate the fact that we don't always succeed with that, but that's really our aim, and what we're trying to do for the next 6 to 12 months is making these things easier for you. So whereas on TV, it was all about finding the needle in the haystack. It was about finding Sandra in that group of 18 to 39-year-old women who possibly watch MasterChef, but then you'd have to go and buy again on maybe a Desperate Housewives or whatever it would be, and you'd be ratcheting up your frequency on people looking for that needle in a haystack. And that frequency, the more and more that you buy, the more and more expensive it becomes to find marginal Sandras. So for each extra Sandra that you needed to find, you had to pay more and more and more as you ratcheted up frequency on the same group of people. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Sorry, I keep falling down the gap. But online, you can find your exact audience at scale. And it's not just Facebook that's doing this. I think what you'll find is a lot of the traditional media properties are also looking into this space with cross-media partnerships, whether it be with a 9 looking at MI9, whoever it is. We're not the only ones that are doing this, but it's about finding your exact audience at scale online. And like I say, TV is not going away, but this idea of hyper-targeting becomes really powerful and important. So one thing that we've done to be able to enable marketers in this area, and it's fantastic, I think Mark spoke about the need to unlock your data so you could have ongoing conversations which are personalized. Great, fantastic, we completely agree. So one thing that we've done to really help marketers in that space is a product called Custom Audiences. If any of you, your organizations have an email list, a CRM list, and it was always really tough to find these people in the real world, you could email them, sure, but do they actually open it? Do they actually read it? Do they actually care? Maybe not. And can you do that in a way that's really targeted to people and their exact interests? It's tough, right? So what we did at Facebook is we took this idea of having your own custom list, and from our platform you can do a hash double-blind match, so we never see those people. It's very privacy compliant, and then you can start to overlay our targeting on top of that. So if you have a list, then you can narrow down whether or not those people like pets, whatever it might be, and really easily create hyper-targeted messaging throughout our platform. So you can be speaking to your customers who like pets, who are female, in a way that's super easy, and you know exactly who these people are, and it's really powerful stuff. So hyper-targeting really takes that haystack where you're looking for a needle and turns it into a situation where you've got a whole haystack full of needles. You know exactly who your consumer is, and you have the capability and the opportunity to hit them with the exact message at the time, at the moment that matters to them. It's really powerful, but currently I think that most businesses and most marketers in the country aren't doing a great job of that. And it's tough, right? So that's the first trend that we wanted to talk about, hyper-targeting. The next one that we wanted to speak about, I think that some people are doing a better job. We're talking about TV and digital. It's about cross-platform. And there are some people who are doing a reasonable job at that. But even in the last 6 months, it's moved on from there. It's no longer TV and digital. Now you need to think about mobile, tablet, all of the different cross-platform ideas and devices that people have in their homes. So a little bit of a quick stat that I wanted to share with you is this is some data we collected about a few months ago, which is just among Facebook users, and we asked them, while you're watching TV, what else are you doing? And among the 18 to 24 age group, we found that 93% of people are also on Facebook at the same time as they're watching TV. Now, this doesn't surprise me because I live on my own, so I kind of am not quite resigned to the fact that I need to be a cat lady just yet. But what I do, it's my birthday next week, and trust me, it gets more and more tempting every year, but still. What I do is I have the TV on all of the time, pretty much when I'm home, just to have some background noise, so I don't feel like I'm wandering around the house on my own. I see some nods. There are some other almost cat ladies, not quite, I think, in the audience. But it's always on in the background, and to my side I'll have my computer, which is probably running some ridiculous data queries, which is my work computer. I then also have my mobile at the same time, and that's where I'm actually doing a lot of my communication, what my majority of my focus is on. But it's no longer this idea that we're watching TV in a silo and all of these other things happen at other times and other places. It's all happening together. And I think that that's probably true for a lot of you as well. I mean, if the kids are watching something on TV, it's nice to be there in the room, or if it's your wife or your husband, but are you actually paying attention to that MasterChef show? Or are you on your phone checking your email, doing something else at the same time? So this is the environment that we're living in. And I think that one company that's doing a pretty good job in this at the moment is actually Nestle, who I'll show you a quick video of some of the stuff they've done with TV and digital together. But like I say, I think we need to move on from that and also start thinking about mobile and other platforms as well. Now, I think it's lovely that they spoke about how fantastic we are and they spoke about ROI and all these lovely things. Good job, Nestle team. But I think the actual thing that was most interesting to me out of that was the fact that there was 2 million people who were reached only on Facebook. Now, we can think about it that as only online or however we want to think about it, but having TV media in isolation is just not the way consumers are consuming media these days. And it's perplexing to me that there are so many campaigns that really are still focused on TV only when that's clearly what the consumers are telling us they're not doing. So we need to think about this in different ways, and I think a lot of the reason why it is still operating in that way is it is difficult, right? We need to be able to do this in a way that's really easy for our teams and in a way that's very different from how we've done a lot of marketing in the past. But just back to mobile for a second, it really is the most intimate device, connected device, that's ever existed. I mean, there are some amazing statistics on how many people take their mobile phone with them every time they go to the bathroom. And what you'll find is that most people sleep with their mobile phone to the point where women are more likely to kick their husband out of bed than they are to kick their mobile phone off the bedside table. I mean, it really is incredibly intimate. And for most people here, I think if you had 2 options, you could, I don't know, donate a kidney to Kim Jong-un, or you could have your entire mobile phone messages, history, browsing history published to the world. I don't know, there's a significant portion of people in the audience who would go with giving a kidney. I can guarantee you that. It is so intimate, it is so different from the way that we've always consumed media in the past. And so what we found is that on desktop, people spend a lot of time. Yes, they spend a lot of time on Facebook, they spend a lot of time digitally, and that's certainly changed in the last 5 years. But if we think about mobile, and I unfortunately don't have Australian data because the data doesn't exist in Australia at the moment. If I had any research companies in the room, I would give them a kick, but never mind. So what we've found in the US is that people are spending even more time online on their phones than they are on desktop. And it's a huge proportion of that time. And I think this is something that we are not really clear how consumers are really consuming that media and what they're doing. So we know that they're spending about 25% of their time on Facebook, but what are they really doing there? And we know it's shorter interactions, so you've got even less time than you would on desktop to get their attention and to really hold it as well. And it's a very different consumer behavior to what people are used to in the past. And I actually think this is an area where we owe you guys as marketers a better job of really understanding that media and doing a lot more with you to help you figure out what's the right strategy and how you can play a really great campaign through on mobile. So I think we owe you that. But on the other hand, I would like to give a challenge to the marketers in the room to develop a fantastic mobile-first campaign. I really don't think that I've seen any fantastic, really amazing campaigns that are developed as mobile-first campaigns that have really come through the works as a mobile campaign first. And we know that that's how consumers are consuming media these days. So the challenge I want to give to you guys is over the next, say, week, whenever you're online on your mobile phone, just consciously have a think about what you're doing and what it would take to speak to you in that really intimate moment, with that device, to really understand and cut through. What would it take to be the thing that grabs your attention when you're speaking to your friends and your family in a way that's really one-to-one? Just have a think about that. And the challenge to the room as a group of marketers is to come up with a fantastic mobile-first campaign, and hopefully this time next year, we can have you as the case study that we're speaking about in Germany rather than having the German Nestle guys here with us. So the third trend, the last trend that I wanted to share with you is all about analytics. I'm the measurement person, so yes, I care a little bit about data and measurement and analytics, but I think that we're at a point right now where this is changing. So up until now, we've really had this idea of analytics where it has to be big, cumbersome. The amount of data that we have is growing exponentially. We know that people are on these devices everywhere, every day, and that creates so much data. At Facebook, we have hundreds and hundreds of petabytes of data, which a petabyte is 100 million gigabytes. It's just huge to think about. But in the past, it's always been that you have these either 2 options. You have a really expensive outsource option of actuaries and of people doing this data for you, or you have a group of teenagers doing a trading desk kind of thing in the media agency. And both of these things are great options. But I think that what we've not seen so far is a great option for brands. A great option where a brand can be the person who's owning this big data and this big analytics. And the reason for that is it's tough. It's really difficult for us to understand this, and we don't have the talent currently in our organizations very often. And so the other speakers spoke about whether you want to buy, rent that talent. It's expensive, it's hard to find. Trust me, it is hard to find good analytics talent in this country. Really tough. So I think what we're doing in Facebook and what you'll continue to see, I hope, and the measurement person, I should again caveat this is really a place where we're going to spend a lot of our focus and a lot of our time in the next year to get these tools to enable you guys as marketers with tools that help you use your data better and that help you to leverage all of the data that we have in a very privacy compliant manner. So I'll give you an example firstly of some work that we did with Telstra recently, which is more on the other side of the coin, where it's that big analytics, that tough work. So I actually had 3 PhDs in Silicon Valley working on this for a number of months to get this out. And I think that this is it's great that we can do this with our really big companies here in Australia, and I feel really proud that we can, but I think it's not the scalable model. So what I want to share with you next is how we see this moving forward over the next 6 to 12 months in a really more scalable way. But what we did with Telstra is we had this business problem. They came to us where they have media running on so many campaigns all of the time on so many different media. And they wanted to know, okay, what's Facebook really delivering for me? And we thought about it and we figured out, well, actually, we've got the data to solve this problem. So every time you use your mobile phone, you use the app, we know who you are, we know what device you use, so whether you're on an iPhone or an Android or what particular model. We also know what carrier you're on, so whether you're on Telstra, Optus, whoever else it might be. And so with all of that information and my 3 PhDs sitting in Silicon Valley, what we were able to do is come up with a really strong analytical way to solve this problem, which basically said, okay, all of these people who are using this current carrier, we're going to show them advertising on Facebook, and we're going to do a whole series of extremely complex models, which I won't bore you with, but we're going to try and figure out exactly what the value of that media is if we can just isolate the Facebook component. And the results were pretty good. So we found that there was a 16% more lift among the exposed group versus the control, and that we found that a whole lot of really interesting statistics were going through this. But again, it's that great analytics sort of way that we have to do this, but it's not scalable. We can't do this with every company. We can only do this with our really top clients, and we're really pleased that Telstra was able to partner with us on this. But it's not the way forward. I think the way forward is, I'll give you a couple of examples. So one of them is that we've opened up in the US what we call partner categories. So you can essentially rent, so we spoke about buy or rent or whatever it might be, you can rent other people's data to target advertising and to target marketing. So there are a lot of analytics companies out there who know exactly who is in the market for a compact car within the next 180 days. They know some amazing things. And because we as Facebook know who people are and their real identity, we know where they live, we know a number of things about them, we can match those things together in a way that no one else can. So you can rent the analytics power from another company and use it as your own marketing vehicle. A couple of other examples. So I spoke about the custom audiences product earlier. Another way that we're trying to scale this analytics for people is we say, okay, so you have this customer audience, this group of people who are your customers. Let's take Facebook's power of machine learning and apply it to that. So what we do is we find those people, we do a whole lot of algorithmic work to find customers who look like your current customers. So whether that's a list of people who are in the market for a car, we know their demographics, we know if they've got kids, whatever it might be, we'll go out and find more people like that. So it's harnessing our power and our analytics within your organization in a way that's scalable and that's easy for brands. The last one I'll speak about is what we can do is actually, if you have this an online transaction and you want to figure out who is buying online, then if you're advertising on Facebook, you can implement a pixel which enables you to see exactly who's buying online. But better than that, it again applies machine learning so that we find more of the people who look like that person, more of the people who look like that customer, even if you don't have their email address. within our demographics and within our databases, which is some pretty amazing ways to do things. So what we spoke about really today was, we spoke about the trend one was hyper-targeting. That's not going away. The trend that we spoke about next was cross-platform and the need to really start thinking about mobile first and digital first, because that's what consumers are telling us that they are doing. And the last thing we spoke about was how analytics can really help the business and how we as Facebook recognize that we need to do a better job in scaling that for you guys. So I think that if there are 3 things that you guys can nail over the next 6 to 12 months, are really these things, then you'll be able to be really foot first and come out on the top of the pile in that bumpy road through the digital revolution. Thanks.